details. But don't worry, it's not too. It's just that you need to draw. Maybe along the way you have to do. That only you will understand. Okay. I don't know why, but my modem along the way. If you cannot hear me, maybe you can verbally stop me and tell me that you cannot hear me. Okay. Don't write it in the chat chat space, because I may not look at the chat space along when I give the lecture. Right. So without further this. Right. Okay. So basically, today's topic is and transformation of shape. Actually, we have covered about shape yesterday. So today is more on shape rules and transformation of shape. Okay. So as I already mentioned yesterday, shape grammar is about rules. Yeah. So you meaning that you are designing according to the rule that you yourself step-by-step manner to produce a design. Okay, so that's basically what shape grammar is all about. But we have covered shape yesterday. So today we are going to look into the details of how you can transform shape, okay, to create interesting rules and eventually interesting shape grammar. Okay, so let's look at the exercise, the ice-breaking exercise that you have done yesterday. Okay, so for those who have not done the exercise, maybe you can do it after this. But basically, I will give you the some examples of what are the shapes that can be derived from these 6 lines. Okay, so the instruction yesterday was given 6 lines of the same length. So you need to arrange them in certain ways and produce 5 possible shapes or design. Okay, I believe it's clear enough, right? So in the slide I just give like random 6 lines in random orientation, right? Random position. So you just need to arrange that lines to make a meaningful shape or meaningful pattern or design or whatever you may call it. Okay. Right. So this is the possible shape that you can derive with. I believe from the 7 submissions that I've assessed, that I have looked earlier, I can see some of the some of you actually have the shapes that I show here. Okay. So if you can arrange the lines into certain comprehensible shapes, okay, or arrangement using this, basically when you arrange it, you use basic organizing principles. Okay, so it may not be difficult for you to understand shape grammar. Okay, because later on when we look at the shape rules, basically in the shape rules we are using like some organizing principles, meaning that how you organize things, okay, to give it certain meaning to make a certain pattern or design. Okay, so even when you do this exercise, or you did this exercise yesterday, you already use certain rules. Okay, believe it or not, you already use certain rules. You may not be aware of it, but there are actually certain rules that you have used to create the shapes that you have produced. Okay, so for example, like look at the Okay, so let's look at this shape here. I hope you can see my laser pointer here. Okay, so basically all these shapes were created using this the same 6 lines. Okay, so using that you can create different shapes or different pattern, different arrangement. Okay, so even in the one that you have submitted, the shapes are not even here. So there are many possible arrangement, okay, that you can derive with that 6 lines. Okay, so just now I'm talking about the rules. Basically, there are certain rules that you have applied to make the shape. So, for example, maybe I'm not going to elaborate all of the shapes, but for example, like this one, okay, the second one, where you put the lines, you arrange the lines side by side. Okay, so you can imagine that actually the rule is something like okay, there's line, and then the transformation is you add another line next to the first line. So that's how you get the second one, and then you keep applying the same rules. So this could be considered as single rule. So you keep applying the rule. So in the end, you keep adding new lines one by one until you have 6 lines. Okay. So basically, there is a rule. So the same goes to this one. Okay. So the rule is more or less similar to the second one here. But here you have like certain movement. Okay, so not just putting the line. Let's say this is the first one. Okay, so the second rules, you add another line next to it, but now the position is slightly lower. But you keep applying the same rule over and over, so then you get this kind of shape, right? But this one, it might look like a single rule, okay, but actually it's slightly complicated than that lah. It's not as I don't consider this as single rule. Okay, so let's say the first shape is this one, the line here. So you apply the rule. The rule basically adds another shape, but in the opposite direction. Okay, and actually from there there's another rule. So basically this is a 2-rule shape grammar, so it's not a single rule. But this one, the this is what, hexagon. Okay, this hexagon here can be created using a single rule. So this is your first shape. Okay, your first shape. And then the rule actually adds another line, okay, for, in that angle. So meaning that you start with this line, but then the rule specifies that okay, when you have that line, you need to add another line at this angle. What angle is this? Can't remember the angle. So I think, but that particular angle 120. I think 120, is it? Not really sure. But you keep applying the rules again and again on the subsequent line which is created. Then so the first one is here. You apply the rule to this line, you get this line. You apply the rule to this line, you get this line. Okay, you apply the rule to this line, you get this line until you have 6 lines. Okay, so basically there is a single rule grammar there. Okay. Yeah, and so on, and this one is the same. Basically, you have a single rule grammar here. You have one line, and then you add. The rule is basically specify that you need to add another line at certain angle. Okay, so this is what, 60. So this is 60 degrees, and then you get this line, and then you apply the rule to this line, 60 degree, you get this line. And then keep applying to the new lines, you get this pattern. Okay, this arrangement. Okay, so basically there is or there are already certain rules that you apply, but probably you are not aware of it, which creates the design. Okay. Okay, so let's recap at the definition or the general definition of shape grammar. Okay, so as I mentioned yesterday, shape grammar is a rule, right, or a set of rules that determine how to modify or transform a shape into a new one. And but as I mentioned yesterday, this transformation is not as dramatic as, for example, like from a square you transform into a triangle, transform into rectangle. So it's not like that. It's not as dramatic or as too much transformation like that. It can be, but not all the time. And the rules are applied in step-by-step way to generate a language of design. Okay, so when you have the rules, you need to apply the rule. Only when you apply the rule, the design would be created. But instead of producing a single design, instead of producing one design like you always do in the traditional method, okay, so in shape grammar, the intention is for you to generate a language of design, meaning that using the same rules, using the shape grammar, using the same rules, you can create various multiple design, okay, in the same style, using the same shape, but you can apply the rule in different manner to create a different design. Okay, so basically in shape grammar, a designer established the shape rules. Okay, in the traditional method, basically you as a designer, you produce the design, you create the design yourself. But in shape grammar, basically you as the designer, you create the rules. Okay, it can be two ways. Like one is if you are using manual shape grammar, meaning that you draw one by one. So you need to first you establish the rules, and then you apply the rule one by one, meaning that you have to draw. You need to create the design according to the rules that you have specified, but manually using your hands. I mean, it can be manually drawn or using computer, but you yourself you have to do it. But another way is by using computational design that I mentioned yesterday. Okay, so where you need to create the rules using computer programming language. Okay, you need to code, which is very difficult. I've tried, but I surrendered. I myself also I surrendered. It's kind of difficult to deal with computer programming language. Okay, but currently most studies and application of shape grammar are done using computer. Okay, so basically maybe you can appoint a specialist, you can appoint a programmer to program the shape grammar using certain computer programming language like C++, Java, Ruby, and then the one I mentioned yesterday, MaxScript for 3D Max. And then the design will be produced by the computer according to the rules that you have created. Okay, so maybe you can create, I mean, using that computer programming, you can create like a user interface. Okay, maybe a dialogue, what do you call it? Maybe a button or something. Then when you hit that button, the computer would generate the design on its own according to the rules. Right, so that's a more advanced shape grammar. But don't worry, you don't really have to do that. Okay, you can still do it using your hands. Okay, or using manually. Okay, so but basically this class is about manual application of shape grammar. Okay, and then I also mentioned yesterday that there are two types of shape grammar. One is a single rule shape grammar, where you only use one rule to create the design. And then you have this one is shape grammar with a set of rules, multiple rule shape grammar, where you have a lot of, you can have two or more, okay, two or more rules to create a design. Okay, so let's look at this one first. So in single rule shape grammar, it's pretty simple. So you have only one rule, and you keep applying the rule again and again to whichever matching shape in the design development. Okay, so for example, like I think I've explained this yesterday. You have a rectangular shape here, and then the rule basically specify that you add another similar rectangle but different orientation, you overlap like this, right? But when you overlap like this, you can see there are 4 smaller rectangular, okay, emerge. So basically, these smaller rectangulars are proportionate to this one. Okay, in terms of the size, maybe it's smaller, but it is proportionate. So you can still apply the same rule. Okay, you can still apply this rule, but now to the smaller rectangular. So you just imagine like this one. So the first shape is this, and then you the first time you apply the rule, so you get this, and then you create another smaller rectangular. Then you keep applying the rule to the smaller rectangular, and then you get this. Okay, this could be considered as one design already. Okay, so the second design, so you apply the rule to certain side. So when you apply the rule to certain smaller rectangular, you will get a different result. Okay, so this can be considered as the second design, and the third design is like this. Okay, and then the fourth one is this. Okay, and actually there are many more possible design that you can create only by using this single rule. Okay, so that's why we say shape grammar is about language of design. It's about design language, meaning that just by using just this one rule, okay, you can create many different design, but in the same language, in the same style. Right? So if you look at all this design, you can see the similarities, some similarities, okay, in the design. Then shape grammar with a set of rules, multiple rules shape grammar, as I mentioned, as I've shown in the example yesterday. Usually, even when you have 2 rules, that is considered as a multiple rule shape grammar already. Okay, meaning that you have options, you have choice. When you apply the rule, you can choose to apply rule number 1 or 2, or if you have more, you can choose whichever, as long as you have the matching shape, meaning that, for example, like this one, the matching shape is triangular. Okay, so whenever in the design development there is a triangular shape, you can apply this rule to the design development. Okay, and a more complicated shape grammar, basically, I mean, would be separated into section. So, for example, like this one, like example, this one, the one that I did for my master's research. Actually, the rows are section. So maybe the first section is for creation of the basic shape, okay, the basic form of the house, and then the second section is to detail out the roof, okay, how you can put the roof, and then you have few options how you can put the roof. So during the design development, you can actually choose whichever rule that is appropriate in the development. Okay. 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 When let's look at the detail of shape rule. So shape rule is written in the following convention, in this convention. Basically, in shape grammar, this is how a rule should look like. So if you remember the examples that I've shown yesterday, basically all the rules were written like this. Okay, you have the original shape. Okay, so this is original shape before transformation. Let's say a rectangular, and then you have arrow pointing from left to right. Okay, from left to right. So meaning that if you have this shape, so this is what you need to do. You need to then on the right, this is left hand side, this is right hand side. So the arrows is pointing from left to right. So on the right hand side is basically the shape that you have transformed. Okay, transform or combined shape. Okay, later on we can I will show you what was the difference between transform and combine. Okay, so basically the one I'm showing here is the combined shape, meaning that you have the original shape and you combine with a new one, another shape, but in different orientation. Okay, so basically the shape rules constrain how a shape shape should be transformed or combined with other shape, right? So you determine how do you want to combine the shape, right? So if let's say the rule specifies something like this, so this to combine the shape. So when you create the design, you're only limited to this rule. So whatever you do to produce the design, you should obey the rules. You should follow the rules. You should only apply this rule. So you can apply the rule here. You can apply the rule here, 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 okay, until you create an interesting design. Okay. Okay. Right. So this is an example of transformation within the original shape, meaning that you don't combine the original shape with a new shape, with another shape, but you just transform the shape itself. You just transform the original shape itself. So for example, like the original shape is the square here, okay, and then the rules specify that when you have that square, you just move the square into a certain into this position. Okay, so you just imagine that the dotted line is the original position of the square. Now you shift or you move the square to a new position at that direction. Okay, so you move the corner to the center of the original position, right? So that's the new position of the shape. Okay, and then for the second one, you have this L shape here. For example, that marks the rotation point. Okay. So basically, the transformation is about rotation. So you rotate the original shape. You rotate at certain degree. Okay, I think this one is like 135 degrees. Okay, it's not so about 135 degree. Okay, but you don't add a new shape or you don't combine it with another shape. So you just take the original one, you rotate into different orientation. Okay, but this kind of shape rule is normally used in shape grammar with multiple rules, because just imagine, okay, let's say you only have a single rule using this rule, but you only have this one rule. You won't create any design, okay, because just imagine, let's say you start with this square shape here, and then you apply the rule. Basically, you just move the square to a new position, and then you apply again the rule here, so you move further up. Okay, in the end, you only have the same square, but now the position has changed from that original position here into maybe somewhere on top. Okay, so there's no design created. Okay, so it defeats the purpose. So that's why I mentioned that this kind of rule is normally used in multiple rules, so that perhaps maybe that there is another rule where you combine the square with another shape, okay, maybe another square or rectangular or whatever, and then along the way you move the square, so you apply this rule, then only it makes sense. Okay, but if you only have this as a single rule, then it doesn't make sense. So similarly goes to this one. If you only have this one rule, you won't create any design, but you end up just rotating the shape. Okay, so originally it's like this, and then you apply the rule, you rotate like this, and then you apply again the rule, you rotate maybe downwards. All right. So in the end, you just rotate, keep on rotating the shape at the same point. Okay, so it defeats the purpose. So unless if you have another rule where you add a different shape, or it can be the same L shape, okay, but you add it, maybe there's another rule where you have this L shape, and then you maintain the original position, and you add another one in this orientation, or maybe in the alternate position, then it makes sense. Okay. So if you have any question along the way, you can just stop me. You can ask any question. So I'll try to explain. Okay, I'll try to answer your question. Okay, so as I mentioned, the combination of you can combine in shape rule. Basically, you can combine a new shape to the original, or you can just transform the original shape itself. Okay, you can add a new shape, or you don't have to add a new shape. Okay, so it depends. But the one that you combine with a new shape, you can actually combine with a shape that is similar to the original shape, like this one. You have the rectangular shape, and you add another shape which is also rectangular, same size, same basically same size, same shape, same size, right? But you can also add a new shape which is different from the original shape. So for example, like initially the original shape is triangle, and you add the square, so next to the triangle. So it can be the same shape, it can be different shape. It doesn't matter. But for example, one basically have only one rule to create the design. You keep applying the same rule to the newly added shape, and you can create design. But for this one, this is not possible. If you have two different shapes, normally it's not possible for you. Not to say normally, it's not possible for you to create design, because somehow you would start, the design process would start. So just imagine that, okay, you start with a triangle, and then you apply the rule, you add, and that's it. If you only have this one rule, you cannot proceed further. Okay, because this rule only specify that you can add the shape to the side of this triangle. Okay, so unless if this is an equilateral triangle where the sides are the same, okay, segitiga sama, okay, where all the sides are the same, you can keep applying the rule to all the sides. But this one is not an equilateral triangle, so only two sides are the same. But if you look carefully, basically the orientation of this rule, of this triangle, does not permit you to add this square to this side. Okay, later on I will show you more example on this. Okay, and then when you have this square, because there's no other rule that specify how you should transform the square, whether you are going to add the triangle again. So maybe like when you have the square, you should add another triangle on top or on the side. So it doesn't matter. So if there's only one rule, when you apply the rule here, then that's it. Nothing can be done with the square because there's no rule. Okay, that's the thing with shape grammar. You need to have rules to apply to the shapes. You cannot simply add any shape. Okay, but in this case, basically you need to have another rule that relates to the square. Okay, so the first rule basically relates to the triangle, but the second rule, at least, you need to have the square and then the arrow, and how do you want the square to connect to the triangle. Okay, so how is the combination of the square with the triangle? That's about it. Okay. And then regarding the shape rules, basically you can use label to control or understand the transformation. Okay, meaning, for example, like since these two shapes are identical, it's basically the same shape but different orientation. You label to understand the transformation in the sense that, okay, so the first one, when the orientation of the triangle is like this, okay, where the label, okay, is at the top top right corner of the rectangular. So the newly created shape, okay, is actually rotated 90 degrees. It's the same shape, but you rotate 90 degrees. But that's how you connect it to the original shape. So the original shape, you maintain the position. So the new one that you add, that's how the orientation should be. Okay. So the corner, this corner and this corner need to connect. So I'll show you more examples on that later. Okay, now let's look at the shape's orientation. Okay, the rules can be applied repeatedly to any similar or matching shape during design development without any consideration towards the shape's original orientation or the shape's original size. Okay, the one that I've shown earlier, where you have the rectangular and you add another similar rectangular overlapping, and then you created 4 smaller rectangular shape, and you can apply the rules to the smaller rectangular shape. So that's what it means here. Okay, so there's no consideration. So doesn't matter if the shape is smaller, as long as the shape is similar to the rules, then you can keep applying the rule to the smaller shape. Okay, and then what it meant by without any consideration towards the shape original orientation. Okay, so let's look here. Let's say this is the rule, shape rules. Okay, where the label is like this. So the top right corner, and then when you add a new one, the blue color line, new one, that's how the label should match, right? And then, but actually, because for a rectangular shape, okay, if you look at it from a different angle, okay, so in this case, in its original orientation or original position, this is how you apply it. And then for the second one, just imagine that this is your original shape, but now you imagine that it is upside down. It still look the same. It is still the same rectangular shape, but now you imagine that it is upside down. Now the label is at the bottom. So when you apply the rule, this is how the transformation would look like. Okay, so it should relate back to the label. So just now the label was on top. So when the label is on top, meaning that you look at the rectangular shape as it is, upright, and then you apply the shape, you apply the rule. So the new one should be created on the side. But now you look at it upside down. It is still the same orientation, but same position. But now you imagine, or you look at it upside down, you apply the rule. This is how the transformation look like. Okay, right. And then let's say you take this the second one. You take this okay, let's say this one lah. Okay, you take the newly added rectangular. Now the label is there. So when the label is there, if you apply the rule to this new shape, okay, this is how it's going to look like. Okay, so the orientation here and here is similar, right? So you can see that the orientation between this rectangular and this rectangular is similar. The position of label also is similar. But when you apply the rule, this is where the newly added rectangular should be. Okay, so you need to understand the relationship between the original shape and the new shape, right? And then the same, let's say the same shape here. Now you look at it from different angle. Okay, basically you rotate. I mean, you look at it, you rotate 180 degrees. Now the label is here like this. Okay, it's still the same shape. Okay, it's still the same shape. You can see that it's still the same position, same orientation. But now you imagine you look at it from different angle, from different way. Then you apply the rule. So when you apply the rule, that's where the new shape should be. Okay. So during the design development, basically this is the shape grammar process. The design development is the shape grammar process. So you start with the original shape. Okay, you apply the rule. You apply once, you get this, and then like I said, so this one is actually the original shape. Okay, the original shape. You apply once, you get this, and then you look at it from different angle. Now you look at it upside down. You apply the rule again, the same rule, but now you look at the original shape upside down. You apply, then you get this. Okay, so when you keep applying the rule again and again to all this rectangular, to all the newly added rectangular shape at different position, this is how you get. This is what you're gonna get, something like this. And even you can still proceed further with this. Okay, you can still add, you can apply the rule to here, 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 right, to create some design. Okay, I hope you understand. If you don't understand, then okay, just stop me at any time. Okay, so now let's look at the possible orientation of original and new object. Okay, just for example, this is the shape rule. You have this is the equilateral triangle that I mentioned, segitiga sama. Right? So the original position is like this, A. Okay, the upright A like this. Okay, this is the original orientation, original position of the triangle. And then the rule specifies that when you have the triangle, you need to add another triangle, but now maybe you mirror. Actually, it can be, it depends how you want to do it. So you can say that this is a mirror. Okay, the triangle, you mirror, you get another triangle on top. Or it can be rotation. Okay, the same triangle here, you rotate, you would get the same triangle. So it doesn't matter whether it's mirror or rotate. In the end, you get, this is how the rule specify the transformation. And then you look at the original object, still like that. And the new object is like this. Okay, it's like a mirror object of the original object. So the possible, okay, with the same original shape, with this shape, the possible way that you can apply the rule are here. Okay, so first, in its original position where the A is upright, okay, you look at the triangle, it's like that. So this is how, when you apply the rule, this is what you're going to get. But now you look at it from a different angle. The triangle is still like that, okay, because it's an equilateral triangle. So there are three ways how you can actually rotate, or you can look at the triangle in three different ways, but still maintaining the shape. Okay, so you can see that these three triangles are still the same. Okay, still the same position, same orientation, I would say. I mean, not orientation, same position, same size, same place, but you only look at it from different angle. So the first one is upright A, but now you look at it from this angle. So meaning that the A is like this. Okay, A is like this, but the shape is still like that. And this one, you look at the A like this. Okay, pointing to this one pointing to the first corner. So this one, the A is pointing to the second corner, and then this one, the A is pointing to the third corner. So when you apply the rule, this rule you apply in different orientation of the triangle. This is what you're gonna get. So first, when the A is pointing to the first corner, you apply the rule, you get this. And then when the A is pointing to the second corner, you apply the rule. This is where the new shape is going to be. And then when the A is pointing to this third corner, apply the rule. And this is where the new shape should be. Okay, so now once you have the new shape, okay, now the triangle is upside down. Okay, you look at all the triangles, they are upside down from the original one. Okay, the corner is pointing downwards. All the corners are pointing downwards. Okay, so this is how you can look at the new shape. Okay, so basically now this is how you look at the new shape. So first, let's say this one. Okay, so the corner is pointing down. So basically the A is pointing to this corner. When you apply the rule again, all right, then you will get this shape. The new shape is here. And then when the A is pointing to this corner, you apply the rule, you will get a new shape there. And then when the A is pointing to this corner, you apply the rule, you're going to get the new shape there, right? So I hope you understand this, meaning that there are different ways you can look at the same object, right? And you can keep applying the rule to the same object again and again on different orientation. So orientation here is that the overall shape stays in terms of the position. Okay, you maintain the shape in terms of position, size. It's just that the orientation is, but between these three, they all look the same. Between, I mean, let's say if you remove the A, they are the same actually, right? They look the same. But when you put the A, of course, as you can see, this A is just a label. So when you do the rules, when you do the shape grammar, you shouldn't put A like that. Okay, but that's how you understand where to apply the rule. Okay, so example of the creation, basically this is same thing that I've shown in the previous slide. Okay, you start with this. This one is different rule. Okay, just now the new shape is mirrored, right? From the original shape, you mirror. So the new shape is right on top of the original shape. So now it's slightly offside. Okay, so it connects to the, it's like mirror, but you add it to the side. Okay, to the side of the original triangle. So similar to the previous one, so there are three different possibility, different ways you can look at the triangle. Okay, so the first one is when the A is upright, you apply the rule. So that's where you put the new shape. And when you look at the object, when you look at the triangle in this manner, the A is pointing to this corner, and you apply the rule, that's where the new shape is going to be. And when you look at the triangle in this manner, the A is pointing to this corner. So when you apply the rule, that's where the new shape should be. So when you keep applying the rule to this one shape, keep applying again and again, at least you get one design like this. You already have a design, this design. So the new shape, if you look at the new shape, they are all upside down, okay, compared to the original shape. So all the triangle are pointing downwards. So now, by applying the same rules to the newly created triangle, you will actually develop further your design. Okay, so let's look at the first one here, this triangle actually. So basically, this is the I took this, okay, from here. But now I want to show how you can apply the rule to the newly created triangle. Okay, so let's first you apply to this triangle. So you apply to this triangle. Basically, you look at there are two ways how you can look at this triangle. So you can imagine that the A is pointing to this corner, like this. Okay, the A is pointing to that corner. When you apply the rule, so that's how you create this one. You can also actually, if you want to develop further, basically you can also look at this triangle where the A is pointing to this corner, and you apply the rule, you will get a new triangle here, right? But it's never ending, right? So I just want to show one example. But if you look at the A upside down, the A is pointing downwards here, you apply the rule, you will get back this triangle. So there's no point of applying the rule again at that position, because you end up overlapping this triangle, the original triangle here. Okay, so you only have, that's why you only have two options. Either you apply it here or you apply here. Okay, and then for this one also the same. You imagine that the triangle is the A is pointing downwards, you apply the rule, then that's how you get this triangle. And for this one, you imagine that the A is pointing to this corner, you apply the rule, that's how you get that new shape. Okay, but like I said, there is also a possibility where you look at this triangle where the A is pointing to this corner, then you will add another triangle there. Okay, maybe it's easier for me to use pen. Okay, so I hope you understand the shape rules and how you can actually apply the rule again and again to the same object, okay, to create design by looking at it from different angle, okay, different orientation or different angle. Okay, so now I want to describe the difference between original shape and the initial shape. So just now, when showing the shape rules, I mentioned that the shape on the left-hand side is the original shape, and then you have the arrow pointing to the right-hand side. Okay, but what is initial shape? So what's the difference between initial shape and original shape? Okay, so original shape is the one shown in the shape rule, while the initial shape is the first shape that the rule will be applied to in the design development process. Okay, most of the time, I mean, to make your life easier, the original shape and the initial shape can be the same. Okay, so for example, like in the previous examples, the original shape is rectangular or a triangular, and then the initial shape, when you develop the design, I actually started with the same shape as the original shape. Okay, where basically the initial shape and the original shape is the same, but there are also cases. Okay, in some cases you can have different. I mean, the initial shape is different from the original shape. Okay, the initial shape to start the design development process can be different from the original shape specified in the shape rule, but should have matching shape or element. So if you look at this shape rule here, so basically the rules specify that you have a line. Okay, you have a line. The original shape is a single line, and then the arrow pointing from left to right, and then this is how you should transform this line. So maybe you divide the line into 3 parts, but the middle part you need to bend like this. Okay, you need to create like a corner like this. Okay, so this is the transformation. So during the design development process, you have a few options. Okay, you can start with a line. Okay, doesn't matter. You can start with the line, but when you start with the line, the transformation is just limited to this line. Okay, so let's see. You imagine that this is the initial shape. Okay, you start here, the initial shape, a line. You apply this rule. Okay, and then you divide the line into this like certain parts. And like I mentioned earlier, as long as there is a matching shape, so now you have initially you have one line, but now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. You can keep applying the rule again to all the lines here. And when you apply the rule, basically it would further break the lines into smaller lines. Okay, but I believe the end result, the design, is not going to be that interesting. But the most you can do, perhaps, just imagine this line here. Okay, so maybe here when you apply the rule, perhaps you want to add there. Okay, you break the line there, and here you break the line here. Here you break the line here. Here you break the line here. Okay, so that's the most you can do. Okay, nothing much. But if you start the development process with a different initial shape, let's say you're going to start with a triangle. The initial shape is a triangle like this. So as you can see, there are 3 lines in the triangle. So you can apply the rules, this rule, to all the lines of the triangle. So first you apply to this side. Okay, you apply to that side. Then you break the line into into 3 parts, where the middle one you create a corner like this. Then secondly, you apply again the rule to this side, and you get this. Then thirdly, you apply the rule to this line at the bottom there, then you get that. So in the end, by applying this shape rule from a triangle, it becomes a star shape like this. And now you have like how many lines? 4, 8, 12. Okay, you have 12 lines already. So you have 12 lines, and you can further apply the rule to all the lines that you have there, right? But you can choose maybe the first design you want to apply it outside like this. So all the additional one you apply outside like that. Okay. But maybe another design, you want to apply inwards like this. Okay, so you apply the rule to all the lines, but now the corner is towards the inside. Okay, so it depends where you want to apply the rules. Okay. So technically, if the initial shape is different from the original shape or does not have any matching element, the design development could not be started. So just imagine on the left here is the shape rule, right? So the rule is like this: you have line, and then you transform the line into this. But suddenly, when you want to start the design development, okay, the initial shape is a circle. Okay, so you cannot apply the shape because there's no like line like that. Yeah? There's no line like the rule in the circle. So you cannot apply, you cannot start the design development because there's no matching shape. So there's no line here. There is a line, but then it's not straight line, right? It's a curved line. So you can apply the rule. But if let's say you start with triangle or maybe square or rectangle, then only it works. Then you can apply the rule to all the lines. And then for this one, you have this shape rule here. Say the shape rule is a triangle. In the shape rule, the original shape is a triangle. But then suddenly in the design development process, you want to start with a square. There's no triangle in the square, so technically you cannot apply the rules to the square. Okay, because the shape, this shape, this initial shape here is not matching with the one specified in the rule. So you should start with a triangle as well, right? Unless in a multiple rule grammar where you have two rules, so the other rules actually deal with a square, then it's possible. So you apply the other rule first, and then maybe the rule specify that you add this a triangle to the square. Then let's say the second rule only deal with the triangle, and then it's possible. So if it's a single rule, then this is not possible. And then this one, the original shape in the rule is a rectangular, but suddenly in the initial design you have triangular, okay, triangular shape, so it's not possible as well. Okay, so here I'm going to show you again the process, even though I've shown you earlier the the development. Maybe earlier I've shown you like briefly on the design development process using single rule shape grammar. Okay, I've shown you this rule earlier. So with this rule, so this is the original shape. So when you start the design, the initial shape is similar to the original shape. Okay, you apply step one, you apply the rule once to this shape, you get this. And then the second step, basically you apply the rule to the smaller rectangular shape. But because you apply it to the smaller rectangular shape, then the newly created object should be the same size of the newly created object. So the newly created rectangle also should be smaller, okay, similar to the one that you apply on. Okay, so you get this, and then here, so basically if you look at this, you create yet another 4 smaller rectangular shape, and you can keep applying the rule again and again, okay, to all the rectangular shape. So the third step, I applied the rule again to this side, okay, to this triangle, but remember the position, the orientation of the object, as I mentioned earlier. So when the object is like this, okay, horizontal position like this, you apply the rule, then the new one would be vertical like this. But when the original, or when the orientation is already like this, so just imagine that you look at this object from this side, okay. Like this one, you look from below going up, right? So that's why you look at it as horizontal. But here, you just imagine that you look from this side, so it's horizontal, but from this angle, okay. And then you apply, you add the new shape like this. Okay. And then the next step, you apply the rule here to the one smaller rectangular at the bottom, and then you get that, and then you apply to this one left, then you get this. So this can be considered as one design. Okay, and when you keep applying the rule and again to the smaller rectangular, this is what you're gonna get. Okay, but I believe in this example I did not apply to all the rectangle, so I only applied to the rectangular at the perimeter, okay, on the outside. So I didn't apply to the one in the inside. Okay, as you can see, this is the rectangular, so I did not apply it to the rectangular. Okay, but as you created, when you overlap the new shape, as you can see here, you created 4 smaller rectangular, and the middle is actually a square. Okay, and then here the smaller one, you created a smaller square in the middle. Okay, so the square is already different from the rule. Okay, the rule only specify that you can only transform rectangular shape. So only when you see rectangular shape, you can apply this rule. But if there's a square, you cannot do anything with the square, unless if you have another rule dealing with the square. Let's say you have like a square. Let's say this is rule number 1. Okay, rule 1, and then rule number 2. You have a square. Sorry, yeah, it's a bit difficult to draw. And then so when you have the square, let's say you want to add a different shape. Okay, you want to add an equilateral triangle, triangular of the same side. Okay, so that's rule number 2. So when you apply the rule like this, okay, here, let's say step 1, you apply rule number 1. Okay, this is what you get. But then instead of going to step 2, where you apply the rule number 1 to the smaller rectangular, so now you want to apply rule number 2 to the square. So basically you would add here the triangular here, and if you keep applying again and again, you will add another triangle here, applying again and again at this different orientation. Okay, and then or maybe you choose to apply that rule number 2 after you get to this stage. So maybe so it becomes smaller like that. Okay, so more or less, huh? Okay, so that's how you apply the rule, right? So you can only apply the rule if there is matching shape. Okay? So you cannot apply this same rule to the square in the middle because the shape is different. Okay. Okay, this is basically a continuation from the previous one. Another design, okay, other design that you can create using the same rule, but now you choose specific side, a specific part of the shape that you want to apply the rule to. Okay, for this one, design number 3, basically you keep applying the rule to the left side, okay, of the once you get this first design here, instead of applying the rule number 1 to all the smaller rectangular at the perimeter of this, so you only apply it to the left side, only this side, so it becomes like this, right? And then for this one, you only apply to the side, let's say this is smaller rectangular, but you only apply to 2 sides. This one, 2 sides, 2 sides. This is what you're gonna get. And then this is only applying to 1 side, but similar, how to say, similar position. Okay, this is the square. You put it at the left side of the square. This is the square. At this different this angle, you apply it to the left side. The left side is here, and then look at this smaller square here. You apply to this side. inside. So this is another possibility. And then if you keep this one is different, you apply to yet smaller rectangular shape, then you get this. Okay, but I think it will be interesting as well if you add another rule that I've shown earlier. You add another rule, and you can apply it here. Okay, so but this is more suitable for like pattern design or maybe sculpture or maybe graphic arts. Okay, if you want to create patterns or you create design or drawing, then you can use this technique. But for architecture, I don't think you can use this kind of shape. Let's say you apply rule number 2. So you add the second rule. You apply the second rule. So to certain sites. Okay, so that's what you're gonna get. All right, single rule shape grammar. Okay, another example. Okay, this is just another example, but I've shown you this rule earlier. But earlier I've shown you the rule with label. So now I've removed the label. So this is how you apply the rule. So when you start the design with the initial shape is similar to the original shape in the rule. You apply it, you get this, and then you apply again, but now you apply the rule to this shape. Okay, but in this orientation, just imagine that you look at the rectangular shape from this angle. Okay, from this angle, you look at it, and then only you see it as a vertical. Okay, from this angle, it's vertical. So when you apply the rule, this is where the new object is going to be. And then you apply again this rule, the same rule to this shape. Okay, so now you have, for this one, you have two options. When you apply the rule, you have two options. Actually, for all the shapes, you have two options how you can apply the rule. So even from the beginning, in the initial shape, you can either apply it here, or if you look at this object from different angle, when you apply the rule, the new shape is going to be created at the back here, right? So here you apply. So basically this application is on the same orientation. So you keep applying to the same orientation. And then here you apply the rule here and then get this. So this is design number 1. And then the next one, after you have created the first design, okay, the basic one is this in the one in the middle, and then you apply again the rule to all the newly created shape, right? But so this is how it's going to look like. So this one you apply, you get this, and at this orientation, you apply, you get that. Basically, you have two options, right? So if you apply, if you look at it from this angle, you apply the rule, that's where the new shape is going to be. But if you look at it from this angle, you apply the rule, then you would overlap with the existing shape. Then it doesn't, it doesn't make any sense. No? So why do you want to overlap the shape again? Okay. Then keep applying the rule to this newly created shape. Then you get this, right? Like a swastika symbol. Okay, and then keep applying again the rule. Then it's going to be like this. Okay, but like I said, because this is a single rule grammar, so if you have another rule, let's say you have another rule number 2, also dealing with rectangular. Okay, just now I changed in different example, I show a different shape. Okay, but because during development you create a different shape, you can have, let's say, how to transform this. Maybe a rotation. Okay. So you get. So when you apply, let's say after you got this, you apply rule number 2 to a selected shape. Okay, roughly, yeah, like this. So you apply here, you get that, and then you apply here, you get that. And then you apply here, you get here, more or less. And then here, you apply rule number 2, you get that. So the rule basically not necessarily right from the beginning you already created all the rules. Okay, the process can be, I mean, along the way you can add. If let's say you think that maybe this design is a bit boring, okay, you want to add another rule to make it more interesting. Then you can along the way you can actually add another rule, okay, to make it interesting. And then here, same. Maybe let's say if you want to apply rule number 2, then you add here, okay, here, and here. You can also apply it to the one that you already created inside here. Right. But it can be a bit tricky. So if you're not careful, a bit complicated. Okay. Pening. too many objects. So yeah, so I think you understand that, right? Okay, another example, a single rule grammar, but when you design a shape rule, it's pretty important that to ensure you need to have some basic, I mean, idea, or you can imagine like how it's going to be, more or less, right? Because if not, then maybe the outcome is not going to be as interesting, okay? And it's a bit limited. Like for example, like this one. So that's why in the end, I think it's best to use basic shape, a square, rectangle, triangle, in the shape rules. Okay, because it's quite easy to develop those kind of shape. But if you create this kind of rule, okay, basically you have a line, and then somewhere like maybe like 1/3 of the top part of the line, you remove and then you replace with this branch here. Okay, so when you apply, as I said, you can apply the rule again and again to all the matching shape. So for all the lines that you already created, you can apply the same rule, right? So basically, it only branch out like this. So you have initial shape and you apply, you get this, and then you keep applying the rule to all the newly created lines. And then in the end, it's just like that. Right? Nothing interesting. You can create maybe a tree, right? But then you look at other possibility. It's only like this. So it's a bit limited, right? Let's see. Okay, another example of rule. I think I've shown you this rule before, right? So and then if you start with this initial shape, a triangle, you keep applying the rule, you get this. This is the first design that you're gonna get, and then you keep applying the rule to the smaller triangle. This is what you're gonna get. Okay, and then you keep applying, then you'll get this. Right? If the lines are too small, then end up you will see this. You're not going to see the lines, so it becomes from far. It is going to look like curved lines. Right? You don't really see the lines because it's already too small. Okay, so now let's look at the how you can transform the shape. These are only some examples. I believe there are more ways you can transform the shape in the shape rule. When you create the shape rule, these are some examples of how you can transform the shape. Okay, the first one is what we call translation. Translation is I've shown the example earlier. So basically, you just move the object. Okay, how you look at this transformation? Basically, you can imagine it as you combine the same shape to the original shape, or you can also imagine it as basically you just transform the original shape itself. So meaning that this is the original shape, and you move the object here. So meaning that later on there's no there's no more this shape at the original position, so only the new the original shape at the new position. Or you can imagine that you have this original shape and you add a new one and maintaining the original shape, but the new shape is actually moved away from the original shape at that position. Okay, so you can have translation on the side like this, or maybe the new shape going down, okay, going up, okay, at certain angle, 45 degree to the right, and then this angle here, what, 30 degrees to this side. Yeah, there are many ways you can actually do its translation. You can move the object. You maintain the original object, you add a new one with the similar orientation, okay, but you just move from the original position, right? So yeah, this is just a few examples. Okay, example of shape grammar that you can do with that kind of translation. So let's say the first the shape is the original shape is a square, and you translate the square. Basically, you create another square, but you move it from the original position to the somewhere midpoint of the original position. So this is your new square. So when you apply the rule, you start with the square, you apply once, you get this, and then you apply again the rule, but now you look at the new object here, the new square here, but you look at it from this angle, right? From this angle, from this side. Okay, you look at this square here, but you look at it from okay, you look at it from this angle. So when you apply the rule, so that's how you get that here. You get it on top, and then okay, you look at it. You look at this object again, but now you look at it from this angle. Okay, and you apply the rule, then the new one will be created here. And for this one, you apply the rule to this shape again, right? But you look at it as it is. Okay, you look at it from a normal view, and you apply the shape, you get this. So keep applying to the rule to the newly created shape. So these are the possibilities that you can get. Right? But as I mentioned, if let's say to make it more interesting, right, from this rule, basically you, even though you started with a square, but when you apply the first rule, you actually created like 3 small rectangular shape. Right? So if let's say you decided to make the second rule, so this is rule number 1. So rule number 2, you can do something with that rectangle. Okay, so depends how you want to apply the, I mean the rule that you want to create. Okay, maybe again maybe something like that. So once you get this, you can apply the rule to this triangle, rectangle. Okay, you can apply there, you can apply here, you can apply here, and you can apply here. All right, so that's how you make it more interesting. So another way to transform is by rotation. Right? So again, you can imagine that you either you maintain the original shape and you add a new one, the same shape, you add a new one, but you rotate from the original point. You rotate, in this case, what, 20 degrees. Okay, doesn't matter what rotation angle you use, or you can also imagine that you rotate and basically you rotate the object itself. You rotate the original object itself. So meaning that you are not adding a new shape, but you just rotating the original shape at a certain angle. Okay, so the rotation point can be anywhere as well, but preferably somewhere that which is easier for you to control. For example, like maybe you rotate from the corner, from this corner, from this corner. So maybe it's a bit difficult if you rotate from the middle of the triangle, especially if you do it manually. If you draw manually, then it's going to be a bit difficult. If you use computer, maybe it's still okay, but if manually, it's a bit difficult. These two are a bit difficult to do manually. So example of shape grammar using this rotation I've shown earlier, right? So basically this is the one that where you use rotation, right? You rotate from the original shape, you rotate 90 degrees. And that's how you get it. Reflection. Reflection is like mirror. Okay. Again, the mirror line, the reflection line, or the mirror line, sometimes we call it, can be anywhere. So let's say this is the original object, and then this is the mirror line at the bottom here. Right. So when you mirror, this is where the new object is going to be. And then if let's say this is the original shape, and then the mirror line is here, then that's how it's going to be. So it doesn't matter. It can even be within the object itself. Okay, the mirror line can be inside the object itself, like this. Okay, but I think in shape grammar it's better for you to use. If you want to use triangle, maybe you can use not only triangle, but whatever shape that you are using. At least try to use shape with at least two sides are similar. If you look at this triangle, basically all the sides are different, okay, different length. But in the previous example, even in this example, okay, you can see that the triangle, you have three lines are the same. Okay, all the lines are the same, so you can apply the rule to all the three sides. Okay. Like a square, you have four sides, so you can apply the rule to all the four sides. For rectangle, you can apply it to maybe two sides. So this is an example of shape grammar using rotation. It's not, reflection. Okay, but for this triangle, it doesn't matter whether you want to call this reflection. Okay, if reflection, then the reflection line is here. Or it can also be considered as rotation. So you consider that as the rotation point, and you rotate this object to that side. Okay, 60 degrees. 60 degrees. 130 degrees. 60 degrees. Alright, so you get that new shape. And you keep applying that, but in this example, I'm actually using reflection. Okay, so I want to show reflection. So that's what you're going to get when you apply the rule again and again to the triangle. You will have you create a different design. Glide reflection. So glide reflection is a combination between translation, movement. Right, you move the object and you mirror. So this is the original shape. You move to a certain point, and then from that point you reflect. Okay, you mirror down, so it becomes like this. Or it can be like, but you don't show the one that you translate. So the one that you move, you don't need to have another shape there. So straight away from this original position to the one that you have reflected. So example, a possible application is like this. You have this triangle, and then the glide reflection is like this. Okay, you can imagine that from that position, I actually move down. Okay, I move down the triangle here, and then I mirror to this line. So that's how you get this. Then like this one, basically from the original position, I move back here, and then from there I mirror down. So it becomes like this. Okay, so you can do anything with the, you can play around with the shape. So example of shape grammar using this glide reflection. It's like this. So this is the rule. So you move the rule, you move the original object to a certain point, and then you reflect. So when you develop design, this is what you're gonna get. But like I said, sometimes you need to be careful because especially if the object that you use, the length of the lines are different, right? So all different. So nothing much you can do. Okay, you're limited to certain orientation. Okay. Okay, another transformation that you can do is by scaling. Okay, maybe earlier I've not shown any example of this scaling of the original shape, right? I believe in the previous example, all the new shapes are in the same scale, the same size as the original shape, but you can actually use different scale. So for example, like the original shape is this, and the transformation is basically you create a new shape, the same shape but in bigger scale or in smaller scale. You can also do that. So potential application, potential example of shape grammar using scaling is like this. But this is not only scaling. As you can see, basically this one, I actually rotate. First, I rotate. Right? I rotate. It becomes like this. There's certain rotation there, and then from there, I scale up bigger. So that's the final object. Okay, so basically this is not pure scaling, it's both scale and rotation. So you apply the rule to this initial shape, you get this, and then you apply to new shape, you get this, and then you get this, you get this. So this one looks like the yesterday I shown the golden section theory of golden proportion theory. So it looks more or less like, but again, yeah, I don't think this is very interesting, right, in terms of the design or the pattern that it creates, and it's a bit limited. Okay, so now there's another type of rule. Not to say type, this is manner. Okay, it's a manner of how you can apply the rules. Right? So I believe in the previous examples, all the examples I have shown earlier are additional rules, meaning that all the rules add new object to the initial object, okay, or to the original shape, and the subsequent ones, meaning that when you develop the design, you keep adding new shape, okay, again and again, whether it's a new shape or different shape, but you keep adding shapes to it. So that's what you call as addition rules. It can be applied in any shape grammar, okay, either single rule or multiple rule. But there's another type, or there's another manner of how you can apply rule, which is by using subtraction rules. Normally, if you the one that for shape grammar that you use manually, the one that you draw manually, it's a bit difficult to do this. Just imagine that you draw the shape grammar using pen and pencil, pen and paper, and then when you the first rule that you apply, you add shape, and then you want to apply the subtraction rule. So subtraction rules look like this. Let's say you already have this shape. The shape is already like this, and the rule actually specify that you need to remove the overlapping component, the overlapping rectangle like this, and then it becomes like this, right? Or this one, let's say. So another thing that you can consider, you need to understand is in the shape rule itself, the original shape, the one on the left hand side here, does not necessarily have to be a single object. It can be like this. It can be a combination of object like this. But in the subtraction rule, this is usually the case for subtraction rules. No? So you already have like two rules. Then you want to two shapes, and you want to remove one of the shape. In this case, you remove the square, you maintain the triangle. Okay, but usually this one is applied in shape grammar with more than one rules. Okay, so you cannot apply this to a single rule shape grammar, just like what I've shown earlier. I mean, you will start. So basically, you cannot do anything. You cannot simply straight away start with the shape rules. So maybe by right there should be another rule, which is an addition rules. You already added shapes to the initial object, and then along the way, then only you apply this rule. Okay, so maybe this is the second rule. So you apply this. So you remove object. So example is something like this. You have two rules. This is an example of subtraction. How you use subtract. This is addition and subtraction. Okay, so in addition rule, just like what I've shown, you keep adding shapes to the original one, and in subtraction rule, you remove shape from the one shown here on the left hand side here. So in this rule, basically this is the original shape in the rule for the rule itself. So meaning that during the design development process, whenever you see this shape, right? Whenever you see this shape, you can apply this rule, meaning that you remove one of the component. So in the development process, first you start with this initial object, and then you apply rule number one, you add. Okay, you apply again rule number one, you add here, and then after that, you apply rule number two. Apply rule number two to this. So basically you remove to this one. Okay. Actually remove this one and this one. Right? You apply the rule here and here. But when you remove that, that's what you're gonna get. But I think manually it's a bit difficult to do this, right? So because you need to erase that. So normally this kind of subtraction rules is used in computer, okay, in computational design, where the computer would do it for you, so you don't have to erase or whatever. Okay, another potential language using these two rules, one addition and one subtraction. Okay, other example. Actually, I've covered, right? I think along the way I've covered. I've shown you examples of single rules and also multiple rules or two rules shape grammar. Okay, so this is another example. So the first rule, basically, you scale up. So you have a square, then you add a new one, but you scale up, you have bigger square. But the second rule, basically, this is like a subtraction rule. So this one is addition rule. This is a subtraction rule. So rule number two, basically you subtract the small square, and then you maintain the bigger square. So along the way, when you apply the rule, this is what you're gonna get. You apply rule number one, you get this, and then you apply rule number two. Basically, you remove the one in the middle, you get this, and then you apply rule number one again to this, you get this, and then you apply rule number two to remove the smaller square, and then you get this. But this is just a simple example. Another example of two rule shape grammar. So the first one, like I already mentioned earlier, when you have two different shapes. Okay, let's say in the rule number one, you can see that you have two different shapes. So the original shape is a square, but the transformation specified that in the rule is specified that you need to add a triangle to the square. So you already add a different shape. So normally when you have two different shapes like this, the second rule, okay, at least you need to have another rule that deals with the triangle, right? Because if not, then you're gonna stop. You cannot develop further. So just imagine that, let's say you only have rule number one, you don't have rule number two. Okay, so first you start with a square. Okay, and then you apply the rule. I think this, Okay, apply the rule, you add the triangle here. And then you apply again. So right now you look at this angle, right? You look at it from that angle. And if you look at it from this angle, okay, you look at it from this angle. When you add the rule, basically you're going to add somewhere here. And then if you look at the square from the top, you will add the triangle here. And then if you look at the square from this angle, you're going to add the triangle there. Then that's it. If you only have one rule, nothing much you can do. You only start with this. You cannot further develop the design. So that's why you need to have rule number 2 that specify what you can do with the triangle. So the transformation that relates to the triangle. So basically, it might look the same. Okay, the rule, the one on the right hand side might look the same between rule number 1 and rule number 2. But the difference is the original shape, meaning that this one deals with a square. You can only transform this when you see the square. But here, you can deals with the triangle. So meaning that whenever you see the triangle, then you can add a square. So if you apply the rule number 2, then you apply to this triangle, then you can add square here. Okay, you apply to this triangle, you can add square here. Okay, you can keep adding square. And then after you got the new square, you apply again rule number 1. Yeah, you're gonna get. Depends on how you look at the orientation of the square. Okay, you can keep adding new triangle. Okay, so I hope you understand that. But where you apply it is quite important. So if you look at this example here, actually it's not that interesting because I believe it looks kind of random. Okay, the design or the pattern created is kind of random or not really meaningful. Okay, so it's not that nice. It's kind of all over the place. So I would suggest you, when you apply the rule, you need to have some kind of consistency as well. Okay, if let's say you apply the rule to the corner, so you can apply it to the same corner again and again. Okay, don't keep changing. At first you want to apply to this corner, and then suddenly the next one you apply to this corner. So end up you become like this. Okay, it's not that nice. Okay, I'm actually running out of time, so I need to go fast. Okay, this is another example of 2 rule shape grammar where in this example, basically this is just translation. Meaning that there's no additional object, right? So you don't add new object, but you just okay, you just move the object, okay, the original object. So for example, like but you have two rules. One deals with the square, one deals with the L shape, right? And then you start, let's say that you start with this shape. Okay, like I said, the initial shape, the one when you start the design process, it can be different shape. But I believe this one is using computational design, using computer to generate a design. So it started with this shape, and then rule number 2 was applied first, where the L shape is moved. Okay, both applied to both L shape, so it is moved to the center, creating like 5 squares. And then the square in the middle, rule number 1 was applied to square in the middle, so the square is moved to the corner. And then here this one, yeah, this small, there is a small L shape there, so the small L shape was moved, okay, to this corner where rule number 2 was applied, so it becomes like this. And then again rule number 2 was applied, so the L shape was moved further down here, and then it becomes like this. So the square here, the bottom one was moved further. Okay, so it becomes like that. Right. So this is example of computational design. Another example of two-row shape gamma. So like I mentioned, usually not necessarily in two or multiple row shape gamma you should have two different or two or more different shape. It can be the same shape with two different transformation, or you can use two different shapes like this. So one is triangle. So when you see triangle, you add square to the side, and when you have square, this is what you can do. You add triangle to the side of the square. So when you apply the rule, let's say this example, so you start with this triangle. You start with triangle, and then you keep applying rule number 1. You apply to this side, okay, to this side, apply to this side, okay. Then after that, you apply rule number 2 to the square. You apply to this side, to this side, this side, this side, this side. So that's what you're gonna get. Okay, so the same goes to the other examples. You can choose which side or which rule that you want to apply first, and then which side that you want to apply to. Okay, so so let's look at shape rules. But now the previous examples that I've shown is only dealing with two-dimensional, okay, 2D rules. So now let's look at the 3D rule. Basically, it's the same. I mean, the concept is similar. It's the same concept, how you apply the rule, but the difference is just the shape. But it can be more complicated because you might have more sides or more orientation that you can play with. Examples of 3D rules, basically it's the same. It's just that you use 3D shapes. Okay, you can use a cube. So earlier example I used square. So in 3D you use cube, you use cuboid, right? Boxes and so on. So the green ones are basically the one that I've experimented using the computer programming language. So I did using 3D Max script, and the rotation, the application of rules was done by computer itself, right? Okay, examples of shape gamma. This is additional rules, right? You just keep adding rules, right? So let's say here, I think I just keep to the number of rules. What you can do with 3D shape rules. This is more suitable for architects, maybe sculptural design. Okay, you want to produce a sculpture, or maybe a pavilion, but it's more related to architecture and sculptural art, I would say. But yeah, maybe it can be used for graphics as well, right? But in architecture, you use 3D forms, more 3D forms. So that's why. So this is the one that I use computer programming language to create this design. So other example, okay, maybe I cannot elaborate more, but you can get the slides from Times, the portal. You can see the examples. You can study how the design was created. So let's get this one. Even though it's a single rule 3D shape gamma, right? This is how the rules specify to how to overlap the object. Right? You add another object like that on top of the original object. But as I mentioned earlier, in the 2D shape, there are many ways of how you can look at the same shape from different angle. So the same, but maybe in 2D shape it's limited to the most probably 4, depends on what shape you use, like a square, perhaps only 4 possible ways, possible orientation of how you can look at the object. But in 3D shape, there are more ways how you can look at it. So for example, like from this angle, you look at it from this angle, that's how you gonna add. That's why you're gonna add a new shape. But if you look at it from a different angle, from this side, okay, you imagine that now this side is rotated up here, okay. So when you apply the rule, So you apply the same rule. Basically, you're gonna add the new shape on the side here, and then you apply again to you imagine you look at it from different angle, then you apply the rule, then you're gonna add new shape at the bottom there. So that explains how you get all this shape, okay, by keep applying the rules to the different sides of the original and the newly created shape, 3D shape. You're gonna get this kind of arrangement. But this one is for architecture, it's application for architecture. Yeah, this is another example of how you can actually apply the 3D rules. It's a single rule, but when you apply it to a different orientation or different angle, that's the potential design that you can derive with. Okay, this is very useful for architecture and sculpture design, perhaps. Okay, this is because of what we call a symmetry group. Okay, a symmetry group of an object is a set of transformation on the object that causes it to look exactly the same as its original state in terms of position, size, and rotation. Okay, remember the triangular with the A letter, okay, pointing to the corner. So when you rotate the letter, the A pointing to a different corner, you're only rotating the A, but the triangular is still the same. Okay, the triangular is still the same, still look the same position, same size, same rotation. Just the A is different. So basically, the A is, I mean, just to visualize how you can look at the same object from different angles. So the same goes to a 3D object, but we call this as symmetry group. Okay, so you just imagine that instead of using A, or you can also use A to elaborate this. Okay, let's say so originally the A is like this, right? So the A is like that. Okay, so but so you look at the cube, the cuboid. So this one, the cuboid still the same, same position, same rotation, same size. But you imagine that you look at the cuboid like this. So the A is pointing here. So now the label is already changed. So when you apply the rule, let's say the rule actually specify that you have a cuboid, you have that label, and the rule says when you have that cuboid, you add another cuboid to that side, okay, near the label. Right. So when you have this, so you add another cuboid there, okay, near the label. And when you rotate down, you look at it from different angle. So now the label is down there. So when you add the rule, that's where the new shape is going to be in relation to the rules, right? And then here, the object still the same position, same orientation, same size, but you actually rotate. Okay, you rotate. You look at it from below. You look at the object from below, from behind. So meaning that the A is actually down there. So in this case, when the A is down there, you apply the rule. So the new object is going to be here, right, somewhere there. And then when the A is down there, but now different orientation, A is facing this side, and you apply the rule, when you add the new object is going to be there. Okay, got it? So basically that's what we call a symmetry group. So it doesn't matter from which angle you look at the object, when you rotate or whatever, the object still looks the same. So you can apply the rules to all the different point of view that you're looking for, right? How you look at the object. Okay, example is like this. Basically, the example is the same example more or less. I've shown you this, but this one slightly different shape. Okay, so A is here, and then same object, but now you look at the A is at the back. You look from behind, then this is how you apply the rule.
and you look from the side. And this is because the size of the sides are 4 sides are the same. Okay, the sides of the keyboard are the same, 4 sides. So it doesn't matter how you look at the object, they still look the same. But to visualize this, you consider that A. You look at the A position of the A. So this one A is from side. Okay, from this side A is like that. So how you apply the rule actually depends on the position of the A letter A. So how you look at the object. Same. So now, just now you already have 4. Okay, different ways how you can look at the same object, and now you add another 4. But now the A is upside down. Okay, so they are still the same position, same size, same orientation, but only difference is the way how you look at the object. So now the A is upside down, this side. So the newly created object will be here. So yeah, I think you can understand this. So again, talking about the same thing. Okay, the different way that you look at the object would determine the different results. Okay, you're going to get different result when you apply the rules. All right, I don't have to elaborate this. It's the same. Okay. And then again, the transformation process, how you can transform the shape in 3D shape grammar. 3D basically the same, and same concept. You still have translation. Basically, you move the object. Doesn't matter how you move it. Okay, but should be specific, like maybe like you move like certain centimeter, and that, or perhaps maybe the angle. You cannot just simply randomly move. Like this one maybe like 45 degree, you move 45 degree up. Okay, move up 45 degree, and then maybe this one like certain centimeter or certain away from the original object. So this one you move up. So you should at least have that details, okay? So meaning when you apply the rules, so the transformation will be consistent. So for all the movement, it's the same. For example, like this one, original shape, and then you move like 1 cm up, and then you apply the rule to this one. So you gotta add another shape, 1 centimeter up. So that's how it's gonna be. And also you have rotation. So yeah, I think this one is quite straightforward. You can understand this. The reflection, glide reflection, rotor reflection is something like maybe because it's a 3D object that you can do this. This is somewhat different, slightly different from 2D shape grammar. So basically, I think what happened here is okay. So this is the original object. You look at the A, B, C, D. Oh, the C is missing. And first you mirror. So now the position of A, B, C, D is already different, right? So it's mirror object, and then you actually rotate the mirrored object, okay, the one that you have mirrored, and you rotate down. So that's what you're gonna get. So that is a rotor reflection. Okay, scale also the same. You can scale up, scale down. Okay, so I think you can understand that. All right, so just examples of 3D shape grammar. This is a single rule, but I believe the rule is this one. You can see here. So basically that's the rule. That's the rule, but yeah, I didn't show it here. I got it online here actually. So this is the original shape. It's already like that. So the transformation is you add same shape, but in that angle. Okay, just like what you can see here. Okay, so keep applying that again and again. Okay, so first you apply the rule to the shape and you get this, and then you apply the same rule to this. I don't know what's the difference between. Oh, okay, I see. I can see the arrow here. So this is a single arrow, meaning that this is the rule actually. Okay, this is the rule. So the transformation starts from here, basically. Okay. You have the first. You apply the rule to this object, and that's how you get this. And then you apply that rule to this shape, and then you get this. Okay, you keep applying again and again, and on the same, okay, at the same direction, then you end up with this. So meaning that here is you apply 5 times, something like that. One direction, but 5 times you get this. And then this one, you apply to 2 different direction. So originally it's like this, and here you apply to this side, this direction. And then from here, you apply the rule here, then you get this. Right? So basically, it's a single rule, but the difference is where you apply it. Okay, you look at it from different angle, and then you apply, you get different result. Okay, this is pretty interesting. It's quite interesting. So when you further develop the design, this is what you're gonna get. Okay, this is actually quite interesting. I believe the results are quite interesting. So that's why it's kind of important for you to have an interesting rules. Okay, it can be just single rule, but how you combine the objects will determine whether the design is going to be interesting or not. Right? But this one can be something like you can use for pavilion design, sculptural design, maybe. In architecture, perhaps you can use it for facade design. Okay, or maybe just for pattern design. Okay, if you like pattern, you can use it for pattern design. Okay, yeah, I think that's all for today. Any question before I give the exercise, before I proceed with the exercise? Any question? Or maybe I just explain the exercise first. All right. So you need to do this exercise again to get the certificate, right, and the micro badge. So this one yesterday is just an ice breaking. It's not a shape grammar exercise yet. But for today, it's basically a simple shape grammar exercise. You need to apply these 2 rules. So you need to come up with 2 rules shape grammar. I think maybe a single rule shape grammar is quite straightforward. It's quite simple. So try to do these 2 rules shape grammar. So you need to apply shape grammar using the 2 rules, where you have pentagon and the square shape. Right. The first rule deals with the pentagon, and the second rule deals with the square. So you need to create 3 interesting design or pattern, okay, using the rules. Okay, using the 2 rules, you need to come up with 3 different pattern or design. You can use pen or pencil on paper, or using any computer software, just like yesterday. So yesterday, from the submission that I've seen, some actually use pencil on paper or pen on paper, and some actually did in computer. Okay, using different softwares. Right, so similar to yesterday, the submission is also similar. So you need to submit the scanned image or photo of your work done on paper, or if you do it in computer, so you need to submit a soft copy in JPEG or PDF format, okay, through the submission link in Times. Okay, you are required to complete all the activities in order to get a certificate and the micro badge. Okay. Any question? This question. Oh, today I got as people. Any question? Let me look at the chat section. Okay, I got a question from Luke Ziming. Aside from MathScript, is it possible to use Grasshopper or Dynamo to do 3D shape grammar, or is it only possible with writing script? But I believe it's possible. So because I think it's maybe I think like Grasshopper, you use something like how do I describe? But you don't have to write the script, right? In Grasshopper, you only I think I've seen last time some people using Grasshopper where there are like few lines like a sequence that you can do with the shape, and I believe you can. It's possible to use Grasshopper or Dynamo to produce, especially 3D shape grammar. Okay, any other question? Okay, again, because the portal is open for 1 week, so you still have a few days to do this. Okay, no rush, as long as you can submit within the given time frame. Yeah, I hope you get your certificate. Okay, all right. If there's no question, I think that's all for our 2-day course. I hope I'm happy to see you in this class. Steve, okay, long time no see, Steve. I hope it is beneficial. It will be beneficial to you, if not for your working, for your work or your study. Maybe if you have a hobby, you like to scribble, then instead of doodling, instead of doing normal doodles, perhaps you can apply shape grammar to doodles. Right. So see you guys. I think some of you, I might see you in class. Okay, so some of you, I think I just see you anytime. Hope we cross paths anytime soon. Right, thank you guys. See you next time. Okay, bye-bye.